I am calling this meeting to order. It is now 7 o'clock. This is a regular meeting of the City Commission. Today, Monday, June 24th, 2019. Please rise and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
I'm Pam Sten, and I'm a somewhat retired Episcopal priest, and I live in the city, and I was asked to substitute today for the prayer. So let us pray. Gracious and loving God, we ask your blessing on this meeting and all those gathered here. Guide our commissioners to discern your will for our city, its citizens and neighbors. Give our leaders the spirit of wisdom, charity, and justice to enable them to promote the well-being of all. And when adjourned, return us safely to our homes. All this we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you so much. This evening, we have a special recognition and a special celebration, and there's many family members here to celebrate with us. But we are honoring tonight Mr. George Nesbital for his service and his 100th birthday. So will you join me in welcoming him? He can stand, or if he wants to come to the podium. Celebrating your service to the community for your lifetime achievement and on your 100th birthday. Happy birthday. Here's the certificate, and here's a little pen saying, Buchanan, life is better here. And you're one of the reasons why it is. So thank you for all the service to the community. You're a very vital member of your church family. And it's all been a wonderful experience having you as part of our community. So thank you for everything you've done for us. Go ahead. Unless you have a speech ready. Thank you all for participating in that special moment. Roll call, please.
Moore,
Present.
Dennison,
Here.
Downey,
Here.
Turney,
Here.
Whedon.
Here.
You have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you. We are now at public comments. Citizens are allowed up to 3 minutes to discuss any agenda item. Would anyone like to come forward?
Hi, I'm Fran Terry. I'm here as a member of the DDA. First of all, I want to thank you all for the service you do for the community, because I know it's a thankless job. So I do appreciate you. I would like to ask that under the consent calendar, the F, approval of the Downtown Development Authority budget that was recommended by the DDA board, that as you approve it, you would approve it with acknowledgement that you will probably get a amended budget, because at the time the budget was approved, there was a lot of new DDA members on that committee, and everything was not understood at the time, so we will probably be presenting a new budget to you, if that's agreeable.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward and say something?
Hey, Dan.
I haven't been down here for a while. Everybody knows who I am. I'm Dan Bianski, 103 North Detroit, Buchanan, Michigan. We're talking about chip and seal again. It's worse than a Band-Aid on a canker sore. It's not doing anything. It's not accomplishing anything. It winds up with a lot of rocks in our sewer. We were promised last year before we did Detroit that it would be swept more after we accepted it. 2 of your commissioners are still there that accepted it. I was told that the sweeper is a piece of junk. So the recommendation that they get out there with push brooms, well, let's just say, I just don't see anybody out there with push brooms. And I don't see, I'm sure that machine costs $100,000, and as long as I'm going there, since we spend money on other things that aren't necessary for the city, we don't have the money to buy the stuff that we need to buy. It's always been the same thing, it's ongoing. But I'm very much against the chip and seal. I'm very much against the chip and seal for any county or rural roads, because the state of the roads, and everybody can see who I drive for, I drive on all of them, they all need to be taken down to bedrock and repaired. We don't need Band-Aids on any of them, and we're gonna have to suck it up and start fixing our roads. Stop putting Band-Aids on garbage. The other thing, I don't know if this is actually, we're talking about repairing Redbud. I would like for him to mention every time that we talk about anything with that building that the Honor Credit Union is in, say who owns that building, because there is a conflict of interest, and it needs to be stated every time something is done for the Honor Credit Union. Thank you.
Mr. Pert?
Randall Pitt, West Chicago, 312. I've got a couple of items. First of all, a while ago when I asked the mayor about the new chairman of the DDA, she said, well, why did you go to the meeting? They decide their own stuff, and you'll find out. Well, I didn't go then, but I wanted to go tomorrow. And I also want to delay the decision, or suggest we delay the decision on the budget that's been so-called approved. And the other point about that is there's a consent calendar which was described to me, and I think in the literature, as something where everything is agreed upon, and therefore there's nothing controversial, and one can do an A or nay vote, or very, very little discussion. But several things lately have been put in the consent calendar, and I don't know how they get there, but they actually go through like they have oil on them. They don't really get discussed. The other thing, saving on the AEP is going to be discussed, and I think we should save or abandon the whole thing. And save can be to give them a decent profit, and then revert to the actual use of electricity a year or two, whenever it is, and so they've had their profit, but then we save after that. If we don't save eventually, then we're just doing a job for AEP. Third thing was, can't read my own writing. Oh, I wanted to know what the definition of a state or county maintenance list was, and there's 3 roads that are going to get put on the list, and who pays for them, and why are those particular roads on the list? Can anybody tell me?
Let's see.
Do you know? Maybe you don't know.
Bill, would you talk about that list when we get to item B?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
they paid for, because we spend all our road money on the 4th Street, River Street crossing. We spent $333,000, $250,000, and it all came out of the road funds. So if people want to have a smooth road in Buchanan, they better go up to that crossing and run backwards and forwards on it, because there are no potholes on that, but they're everywhere else. So, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else like to make a public comment?
Chris Geisler, 509 Streetsville Street, coming to you as a resident. I'm going to agree with Mr. Vianski on half of what he said. The chip and seal, it costs very little. We get very little. Like Mr. Pierce said last commission meeting, cost-benefit analysis. We put this stuff down, it doesn't benefit us very long. So when I ran for city commission, like with the 3 new gentlemen that are up there, we talked about negligent spending. This is one of the items. It needs to be voted no. I understand our streets are in poor condition, but like Ms. Vianski said, we need to start paving our streets. Because if you don't fix what's underneath these streets, you're putting this chip and seal over it, it's not going to work. We see that in the current streets that were done last year. All of them are junk. You go out to take River Street out past the bridge, it's all torn up and needs to be fixed. Buchanan has some of the worst roads. I, like Mr. Vianski, travel these county roads daily. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else want to make a public comment about the agenda?
My name's Pam Sten, and I live at 605 West 4th Street, apartment 2 in Buchanan. I would also like to speak against the chip and seal topic. I spoke with a neighbor of mine who lives on Cayuga, and this has been done, I guess, several times on that street. And she said that you drag in this stuff into your house, into your rugs, into all, because it sticks on your shoes. Depending on how the weather is, it might be fine, but otherwise, it can just get to be a real problem. And I don't know that much about how the budget works here in the city, but I really do think it's important to begin to really delve into ways that you can get the streets taken care of better. I travel on 4th Street by the middle school every day, several times a day, maybe even 3-4 times a day. And I literally, when I'm heading west, I literally drive on the wrong side of the road as long as nobody's coming toward me, because that street, and I know that's going to be done in a different manner, but all I am saying is I'm basically breaking the law, so I don't have to break my car. But I think something really, you need to start dealing with it in a better manner than just putting that chip and seal on. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else wanting to make a public comment?
They haven't done it, period. This is the first time they're doing it.
I'm sorry, is there anyone else that hasn't spoken, would like to make a public comment?
That's supposed to avoid, right? But
It has to be done, and I realized that it was 77 from there, but not to exceed 8,500.
All of these are on, so, okay.
that's why we,
Your Honor,
Let's have some order here, please.
Your Honor,
Yes,
we are getting a quote to fix and repair the speakers in the chamber separate from the recording for Channel 17 and YouTube, just
Okay.
an FYI.
all right, thank you for that. So obviously, we do need to speak up a little bit. If you don't hear something, please let us know to speak up. Okay, let's see, no one else, move on. Let's go on to the consent calendar.
Ma'am, I did ask to be, I did ask to come up.
Yeah, you had an opportunity
Yeah, but
to
I've
come
got
up.
another opportunity. Is there something in the rule that says I can't come up twice?
As long as it's something on a different topic.
Robert's rules, quote me Robert's rules.
The rule is that only the people recognized by the mayor may speak. So I gave you
Then I'd like to see
reasonable,
that in print. I'd like to see that printed and put on the bulletin board.
Mr.
I'm really tired of
Vygotsky,
you picking on me and putting me off committees and throwing me out of these meetings and not recognizing
I will
me.
give you a chance, you have a 3-minute chance to come up here and bring up a totally separate topic than what you already said. You may come forward.
I'll address it right now. You took me off both committees when I lost the election. This is part of this meeting. The one committee, I was very qualified for. You had no business taking me off of it. These guys are all working men. You didn't have to put them on another committee. You refused to put me on the DDA committee. Now, the reason why I come up here, I wasn't gonna get mad, but I'm not gonna be treated rudely by you anymore. Never, no more. I wanna know who's paying for the trees in the common. Is the DDA approving the trees in the common? Did the DDA approve the trees in the common? Is the DDA paying for the trees?
I'm sure that we will, when we
No, I
get to
want it
that
addressed
item,
right now publicly.
it's not going to be addressed right now publicly. You're bringing your
Well,
comments
then, okay, my
forward.
comment is the DDA budget needs to be stopped. Take it off the consent calendar and make sure it's taken care of properly and done not by your self-appointed mayor, but by people that want to be fiscally responsible. Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. Now we'll move on to the consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Mayor, I'd like to make an adjustment to that. Based on the comments that we've heard, would we be willing to entertain an approval with the understanding that,
Let me correct you. Your position at this point is to either make a motion to approve the consent calendar or to make amendment to the consent calendar. And in that amendment, you would say, if you wanted to discuss an item or do something else, that's when that item would go then to be discussed immediately after the consent calendar has been approved.
okay,
But we would have to have a motion for an amendment, and that motion would have to pass.
okay.
And then
Well,
if it passed, then we would go back to the consent calendar, which would be amended, and then get another motion for that.
Perfect. Well, then I'd like to make a motion to make an amendment to the consent calendar.
To do what?
To do what? To add that we make an acknowledgement within item F, within the consent calendar, that we acknowledge that there's going to be amendments to the DDA budget based on the request of the public. We acknowledge that not only are we making approval of the budget, that we also acknowledge that there's going to be,
Well, we don't know if the DDA is going to submit that. They think so. They're going to have meetings about that.
I think
So
it's pretty apparent,
to-
though, based on the information that we have before us and the individuals that are here, that they are asking it with,
The budget is going to be amended as they develop it.
right, absolutely.
But what they're suggesting is resubmitting it. They have to have a budget before July 1st. So that's why I'm encouraging you to, in some way, make sure by the end of this meeting, they have a budget. The statute states they shall have a budget. So they can later on give us another budget, whatever, we can do something at that point in time, but by the end of, this is our last opportunity to give them a budget that's passed. So if you have a specific thing, if you want to have it discussed, then we have to pull it off. There's no discussion about this. So is that your motion? Or,
Yeah, my motion is to pull the item F
Okay.
from consent calendar. And have a discussion. And have a discussion. I think it's absolutely necessary based on everything that we're hearing from the city. I mean, we're accountable to the public, and the public is enforced tonight and has had brought up on multiple occasions that they do not feel comfortable with the current state of the budget that's been presented. considering the fact that the people who were involved in the initial budget discussion, you yourself was there, Cameron as well, and it has nothing, regardless of the two individuals that are on this committee, or this commission, were there, I do believe that with the current state of that committee, that we need to have further discussion on that
So
budget.
that's your motion.
I will make a
It-
motion to remove
Is,
it. and-
is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion and second. And could we have roll call, please?
Whedon,
Yes.
Turney,
No.
Downey,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Moore.
No.
Motion carries.
Okay. So we have now time for a motion to approve the amended consent calendar. Is there such a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the amended consent calendar.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. And could we have roll call, please?
Turney,
No.
Downey,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Whedon.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Now we are now going to discuss item F, approve the Downtown Development Authority budget for 2019-2020 fiscal year that was approved and recommended by the DDA Board at their June 12, 2019 meeting. Do you want to, anyone want to start the discussion? Cameron, do you want?
Judging by all the emails that went around, yes, there are some questions that need to be answered. I don't know that they all got answered in the emails, but there needs to be a better discussion at the meeting tomorrow before we make a decision.
Bill?
Mayor and Commissioners, Fran asked that the budget be passed with the understanding that we're going to see amendments, and I believe we will out of this budget. Again, this budget was discussed and approved by the DDA, been recommended to the city to approve it. If we don't approve it tonight, you have no meeting between the start of the fiscal year, which is July 1, unless you choose to have a special meeting and come back just to approve that. I don't think that's necessary. Again, the DDA is going to have a discussion tomorrow night about the budget. They'll have that discussion. Again, the budget is flawed in the fact that it is missing some funding in certain spots, but they'll have that discussion tomorrow. And when, at their next meeting, they'll be able to make those amendments to their budget, approve those, and they'll come back to you and you can approve those amendments. But I would say that we'd want to approve the agenda tonight, even with its flaws, so that on July 1, they can pay their bills. Because you have the farmer's market master out there, she would like to get paid. They've got some reoccurring bills that come up, and we would like to pay those as well with their approval. And their budget, their next meeting isn't until, let's see, I'm trying to remember where they're at. Probably not until the middle of the month. So again, we fully acknowledge there's the budget is as good as the day it's approved, and it's always subject to amendments. So they can make the amendments as they choose, when they choose. But they need a budget to start the year. So, and that was explained to the chairman as well, so.
And just as our budget gets amended throughout the year, they're going to have to amend their budget. When we attended, Cameron and I, along with a few other people, attended the budget session that they had, and we worked out with the treasurer the items that ended up in this budget. It was brought to a regular meeting of theirs, and it's true, there are several new members that had not ever seen that before and had not been a member before, and so they weren't able to really participate in the work session, the budget session. But there was a quorum there, and it was passed in a regular meeting. So they need something to start with, and unless this group is going to be coming back in a couple days, I would recommend, in fact, I'm making the motion that we approve the Downtown Development Authority budget for next year.
As submitted.
Does anyone want to second it?
I'll second it.
Are we going to end our discussion already?
No, I'm just making the motion, so we have a motion on the floor to discuss.
Okay.
So,
What was the second?
Dale,
Thank you, Dale.
okay. So, did you want to say something?
Where do I start? Correct me if I'm wrong, but like any municipal budget, this is a fluid budget anyway. It's going to change as we find out where money comes and goes. So it's not like it's chiseled in stone. I'm a little put off by what seems to be an adversarial tone from the DDA towards the city defending itself. It's hard to move forward when you're always looking backwards and arguing about history and who did what wrong. And I'd like to see us approve this budget that was approved by the DDA, no matter who was on the committee at the time, and start to figure things out. That's just my view.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Commissioner
I'll
Bennett?
in answer your question or your concerns here. We have a new director who was thrown in this just 2 weeks ago.
And a new director, a new chair.
New chair, I'm sorry. And in the process of trying to get information in the last couple of days, the city is busy with a lot of things too on their own agenda. And, you know, just trying to get all the information and having it organized. It's been very confusing trying to keep up with all the emails. I understand the chair is very frustrated with what he's trying to get and give to the rest of us. So I have.
Okay. Commissioner Whedon?
I think I'd written down many questions, and I think that ultimately that, based on the information that we've heard this evening, that a lot of them are going to be irrelevant, based on the idea that we know that they can amend the budget, right? So outside of the questions that I thought I was going to ask, I think my major concern, due to the state of the city and what we're expecting from the businesses that want to come to town, right, that are excited to come to town, that we're approving for medical marijuana facilities that are coming to town, and we've seen the excitement around Zen Leaf, and if anybody's been in town for half a minute, you see that the business is doing well. Layman's is doing well, right? So I wrap that all together to say that it's nothing that I can put on the agenda. It's a request of the city and the DDA to please find a common ground to discuss whatever issues that we've had in the past and put those aside and realize that we're a representative of what people see in Buchanan. And if they see this and it continues, it's not going to bode well for us, because they will start to go to cities such as Niles or stay at Three Oaks and not venture this way because of the differences between the individuals and their opinions of each other, and limit it to just what the city needs and the success of what the city, it requires of itself. So I appreciate the information, and then I acknowledge that you had explained that they needed to have amended budgets, and they can do that at any given time, but they also have to have that based on requirements of the charter.
The
So,
statute.
right.
The statute for the
Absolutely.
DDA.
So
Dale, did you have any?
Just a little comment. The bottom line is that they need a budget to be approved by July 1st in order to do it correctly and legally. They can make amended budgets just like any other municipality, the city, or whatever. And they're having a meeting tomorrow. So I hopefully that the DDA and the city can work things out and get things going. The basic line is we have to approve the budget tonight to keep everything correct. That's it, Your Honor.
Well, and I would just like to reiterate, there really isn't a conflict between this budget and what the group wants and what the city wants. We've both been working towards a joint goal for several months. So what is difficult is that there has been a changeover in the membership of the board and in trying to get the work done that we need to while people are getting up to speed has been a challenge, because asking for documents and things of that sort has been difficult to have a special meeting by this point in time prior to the start of their fiscal year too. So I anticipate tomorrow they will work out some of the issues amongst themselves. It isn't really an issue with the city, it's an issue amongst themselves with what their, the direction they're heading in. So there's a motion on the floor. Is there any other comment about the motion? If not, roll call, please.
Dennison?
Oh, wait, did you have a comment?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if everyone out there knows the situation here, but the DDA was pulling away from the city. And in the last week and a half, we found out that a lot of things had been left out. So for the DDA to continue, they're unable to the way they were without the city involvement. So that's a major portion of it, because the DDA has to then support the city staff from our budget, which is not included. That's it.
Okay. Is there any other comment? Then let's have roll call, please. Yes. Don.
Dennison?
And what are we doing? We're voting on
On the
approving,
motion to approve the budget.
Yes.
Whedon?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes.
Downey?
No.
Turney?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, now we are going to go to the reports and hear from Buchanan Tree Friends. Consider approval of planting trees at the Common. Is anyone coming forward?
I'm a member of the tree board. Would you like me to,
Are you wanting to,
do you want me to speak on
Give
their
the
behalf,
report
or
of-
would you like me to just?
yeah, I mean, you could come up to the microphone and give the Tree Friends report.
Hi, I'm Brenda Hess, and I'm on the Buchanan Tree Friends Committee. Some residents got together and a downtown business owner with the Buchanan Tree Friends, and they came up with a map. There have been complaints that there's not enough shade in the common area. If you go to concerts, it gets a little warm there, and there is a map that I don't have because I thought someone from my group would be here. But all of those trees, the city is not paying for any of those trees. So I would like to address the comments from our city resident who is just trying to stir things up, that those trees are being purchased by families, and families in honor of loved ones. Don Ryman is purchasing one in honor of Martha, and some other people too. But we can get you another report at a time in the near future. There's a map to share, and that's what's going on with the Tree Friends. Yes.
What's the
Commissioner
cost
Turney?
of the tree? For someone to purchase the tree?
If you want to purchase a memorial tree, any city resident can purchase a memorial tree. It's $175. We plant in the spring and in the fall so that we're not planting in the heat of the summer, although the summer seems to be a little bit of an anomaly. But you'll get a certificate, and then there's a nice metal-looking plaque that goes in the tree and grows with the tree, and it says whatever you would like. So if it's in honor of your neighbor or in memory of a loved one, and the dog park is looking for people. That's another area in the city that's lacking shade, so they're looking for people to donate trees to the dog park as well.
As a member of the tree group, this report item indicates that we would be providing some kind of approval of the planting of the trees at the common. And can you remind me if there were some?
There should have been a map in your packet, but maybe that didn't get in there.
Right, we didn't get one.
Okay, Commissioner Weed, oh, sorry.
Commissioner Whedon.
Commissioner Whedon?
Yeah, so I know that on the farmer's market board, and we had received the map and the original placement of multiple trees, that we had concerns from a farmer's market's perspective where they wanted the trees placed. And I don't recall if we had gotten back with the tree friends on our recommendations or asks of the
Yes,
tree friends.
the people that made the plan followed the recommendations of the farmer's market.
Okay.
And Beth Chubb as representing the common committee. So they got together with those groups and made sure that what they had planned was appropriate.
Okay, perfect.
Bill?
Mayor, Commissioners, I would suggest until we get that map, we table it. It's my understanding that they aren't going to plant those trees until fall, if not spring. So there is some time to table it to get the map, so we know exactly what's been approved. Because I know there were a couple trees in question. I think the farmer market brought that up. I think they have an agreement. I would suggest we get the map before we actually approve that. And I think there was there 17 trees total eventually?
15, yeah, throughout the whole common complex over by the mill. It's really nice.
Yeah, so we'll be adding some dimension and color to the common area. We're trying to keep certain areas kind of open for the market's use and so on, but everybody seems to be in favor of it. I would just like to see the final map.
I would as well, too.
Great. I
Okay,
will let them
so-
know, and my apologies.
Oh,
No.
thank you for
Thanks.
Thank
stepping
you.
in
Thanks,
and
Brenda.
giving the report.
I will make a motion to table that until we receive the map and location of the trees.
I will second it.
Okay.
Sorry, we caught her off guard. She's-
Just like,
Good, yeah.
just give her time to write it.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Moore?
So, yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Downey,
Yes.
Turney,
Yes.
Whedon.
Yes,
Motion carries. Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, now we are at unfinished business. Consider approval of previously postponed motion of June 10th to approve contracts with AEP for street lighting replacement plan. Do you want to come forward?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, worthy commissioners. I'm glad to be back again and answer whatever questions I can for you. My name is John Beek. I'm a customer services account rep for Indiana Michigan Power. And may I just run briefly over what we're talking about?
Certainly, that'd be fine.
So Indiana Michigan Power was asked by the state of Michigan to change out all of our streetlights within our service territories, which are currently high-pressure sodium and mercury vapor lights, to change them out to LED. And one of the things that the state of Michigan told us was that we couldn't pass that construction cost or the cost of the lights up front on to our customers, and that we could not change the rate. Now, the sticking point for a lot of my customers, not just City of Buchanan, but is the fact that we're going to replace a 100-watt high-pressure sodium light with a 41-watt LED light, comparable luminosity, comparable illumination of where it's going to go, but we are not lowering the cost of the light to the cities, to the municipalities. Part of the reasoning behind that is the upfront cost of changing out our 11,000 plus lights in the state of Michigan is about $4 million. So we're assuming the cost of the lights and the construction, the labor to go out and change those lights out. Just as a side note, I don't know if I mentioned this the last time I was here, Indiana's Public Utility Commission approved a similar program for Indiana, but our Indiana customers are paying a partial cost of the materials, and they're paying an increased cost on the lights. So I like presenting this program in Michigan a whole lot more than I like or would like to present it in Indiana. With that said, what can I answer for you?
Okay, are there some questions that we have?
Yeah, I've
Commissioner
got a
Downey?
question. Okay, my biggest concern is that with 332 lights, basically you're gonna be making a profit of $7.50 per light for the life of the bulbs, which over 15 years is gonna be $500,000.
Sure.
Okay, we want you to make money too, but not at the cost, not at that kind of a cost for the city residents. And we've asked you to maybe bring that, a guarantee of some kind that we bring that 15 years, because they could last 25 years, we don't know. Bring that down to something more reasonable, so you guys make money, we get new lights, and everybody's gonna be happy.
Okay, and what I have told my customers previously is, we're a regulated industry, okay? And when we put forth a rate case to the state of Michigan, the state of Michigan looks at the numbers, and then they give us our rates back and say, you can charge this, you can't charge this, this is appropriate, this is inappropriate. The unfortunate thing is I won't sit here in front of you and say for sure that in 5 years, you're gonna catch a break because the $4 million will be paid off across the board with the state of Michigan, and then we can lower the cost on those LED lights. I can't make you that promise, and I won't. And to give you a guarantee would be a false statement.
When you were here the first time, you had mentioned that if we didn't approve this plan, that eventually you'd just start changing out the streetlights to LED anyway. So say in 15 years, when those are all changed, will we be paying for usage? I'm assuming?
So this is not a mandatory program. The city of Buchanan does not need to participate in this program. We will, by mandate of the state, over however many years it takes for the lights to burn out and the guys to come in and change them, we will change them to LED heads, and you will pay the same price on the LED head as if you had gone in and changed them all out the first, right along. So that LED head 10 years from now is not going to be cheaper than what you're installing it for right now.
Yeah, I don't believe, I'm sorry, I don't believe that.
Yeah,
You're telling me an
I'm
LED.
I'm saying our charge to you is not going to go down. The head is going to be cheaper.
So you're going to be charging us the same rate for an LED 15 years from now that we're paying for a sodium right now?
If the utility industry has any indication, it's not going to go down, no, sir.
So what's the advantage,
Commissioner-
sorry? So
No, Commissioner Downey.
So I understand from a cost perspective, right, that the time or the requirement to change them out is going to be less, right? We're all fully aware of the
Sure,
LED
gonna be less
lifespan is.
overtime for us. Yep,
Absolutely,
yep.
right? So it sounds to me as though it's a benefit up front for your company, but if the cost doesn't go down, if we don't see a benefit to customers, everybody who lives here does not see a benefit, to what ends are you selling me on the idea that this is going to be?
Good thing?
Yeah, I realize that LED is a good thing, that we don't have to discuss
Right,
that, right?
So honestly, the only benefit that the city of Buchanan will see from this is you will see a uniform light coverage, you will see brand spanking new lights, you will see fewer street light outages in your neighborhoods that you'll have to call in. But again, it's not going to cost you more money right now, but I can't tell you that it's going to cost you less money in the future.
It's not going to.
And this is a discussion that I've had with more than one municipality, and it's a discussion that I've had more than once with my regulatory folks.
So,
So I'm not ignoring the question. I am attempting to persuade the company to the logic of what my customers are telling me.
so in somewhat of his defense, and not that we're in battle over whether or not
No.
you're correct or
No,
not,
no, no.
but And your response, Sean, to his statement that it's not going to save us anything in the long term, does it make much of a difference if we do it now or allow them to do it over time? If ultimately they're saying, and sorry for the crass statement, that you're not going to save us anything, does it make much of a difference if it's not costing us anything to have them do it? Does that make sense? And maybe I'm completely illogical in that statement, but it doesn't seem as though it's hurting us. It's not helping us, but it's also not hurting us.
But I wouldn't, if somebody offered the same thing to me for my home,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to change out every light in my home not knowing what the future is. I'm going to do it because it makes sense when I go to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't make sense, I'm not going to do it. I don't know what's going to happen 10 years from now. I mean, if it takes 10 years to get new lights and then you're telling me that it's going to be the same cost, I don't know. I mean,
Absolutely, I agree with you. I do. It's, if they're going to do it now, and sorry for the public being patient with us during this discussion, but if they're going to do it later on and with no guarantee of it lowering the cost, and you're going to do it all in one setting, right, with additional posts if required, with the 3 that we have before us, is.
but what we're talking about, Mark, is we're talking about light fixtures that use half the energy of what we're using now. And like Cameron has said, over 30 years, that's $1 million.
Right.
We have people screaming at us that the streets are terrible,
So
and
in
we're
that-
looking for every penny we
Right.
can squeeze, and
So in that defense, and stating it just like that, that's exactly right. They're taking the full profit of doing it, but saying that we're going to give you a cost savings, but no savings.
and I would be
in-
all for it if they would say,
Right.
sure, we'll give you some savings after 15 years, after 20 years, after 25 years. But
same-
tell us when it ends. We
Right.
can't just pay twice for the amount of energy we're using forever.
Same reason we put in energy efficient water heaters, energy efficient washers and dryers, energy efficient
get
dishwashers.
savings.
To get a savings, right? And we see that savings almost in a month, right?
No, okay, I'm gonna step back from my I&M role for a second and just say something, and I'm not greasing the skids here. I've done this presentation for several communities. Buchanan, far and away, is, I'll come back and talk to you, not that I can do you any good, but anytime you all want me to come back, because the community involvement that's here, the people that come and ask the questions, the board itself, the discussion, I've been involved in my own village government for years, and I wish we functioned like this. I wish that there was the discussion. The spirited discussion, the questions that come from the public, that's what small towns, and actually the federal government's supposed to work like, but we won't go there. So, wait a minute, I just did. I'll go back to AEP now, but I appreciate Buchanan and how you all operate. And I don't mind the questions, but I'm honest in my answers. If in a regulated utility industry, have we lowered your rates in the last 10 years? No, we haven't. And unfortunately, we're probably not likely going to lower rates. There's so many different factors that go into our regulatory side of the business
No, that's fine.
that would dull you all to tears. So again, be mindful as you are that you don't have to participate in this program.
Commissioner Sterney has a question.
Yes, sir.
Well, actually, I have a comment, if that's okay, Your Honor.
That's one.
That I worked for a regulated utility for 30 years.
Yes, sir.
You are correct. Most likely rates will never go down. You're hoping that they maintain because we're regulated, okay? And when you're getting a service from a utility like this where they're going to change everything out, use their work people, not anybody else's, I think it's great. It's sort of like the gas company changing out your meter, okay? They ain't gonna lower your rate, they're just changing your meter because by law, every 10 years, at least in Chicago, that's what you had to do, okay? So, I understand where you're coming from. It's regulated, in all likelihood, it's not gonna go down. You're not gonna get any rate increases, so, to go down. So that's my comment.
Okay. Is there,
in response to that. But when you're putting in a meter, Dale, it's not using less gas. All it's doing is measuring the gas. We're putting in LEDs that are using half the energy of the lights we have right now. We see no savings for that,
That's-
ever.
That's because of the rate structure that's regulated.
And Mr. Dennison, please understand, when I say that there's not going to be a decrease, it's because I don't have a crystal ball to know what the
I know.
company's going to do, or quite honestly, the state of Michigan. Because the state of Michigan, when we take our rate cases to them, they'll come back and we'll go, but wait, we didn't ask for that, or wait, we asked for this, where's this? And I can't tell you, because it depends on the administration that's in there and the commissioners that are on the PSC and what they decide when they review our rates.
No, I understand that.
So-
I don't
so
feel
you
comfortable
could
making a
see-
decision based on an open-ended contract.
Right.
I don't think it's fiscally responsible of us.
But it's not an open-ended contract.
You won't give us an end date.
It's a self-renewing contract on a yearly basis, and a little better update for you than the last time I was here. Any party to that contract can cancel it with a 60-day notice of cancellation. So if at some point the city of Buchanan wants to go to their own lighting streetscape, they want it throughout the entire city, you want to put your own lights up there, you would give Indiana Michigan Power a 60-day written notice. It's in the terms and conditions of service. I can send you a copy of it so you can see the terms and conditions of service, and you can cancel that street light contract.
Commissioner Downey?
Okay, I'm gonna go back to the $15 per bulb we have right now, per light, for electricity. To run that bulb for a month is $15. That's what you gave us? Weeks ago.
So the light itself,
Electricity to
if it's
power that light?
if it's 100-watt high-pressure sodium, we're billing you $5.40 a month for it. Okay, and that includes the electricity that runs it. If it's 175-watt mercury vapor, we're billing you $8.05 a month for that light. That's what it cost us to run that light, have it out there. And I apologize if I gave you a figure of $15 at the last meeting.
I'm pretty sure it was $15
Okay.
per bulb,
No.
or per street light.
No, your tariff costs on those lights, and that is the, for the 100-watt high-pressure sodium, the 175-watt mercury vapor, there's a 200-watt high-pressure sodium, there's a 400-watt high-pressure sodium, 400-watt mercury vapor. They are more expensive as they go up. But the basic cost of the 300 lights plus that you have here is that $8.05 and the $5.40.
Well, that changes my figures drastically from the 15 that we were given before.
Okay.
In addition to that, I did a little investigating today because we had asked about recycling cost of the
Right.
bulbs. And I don't even know if this is feasible. I just want to throw it out there for everybody else. There is such a thing as a bulb blaster, something like that. It's a 55-gallon drum that sucks these bulbs in and they explode inside, and they've got a mercury and sodium filter on it, about $6,000. And to have that waste then removed is between $40 and $1 per bulb. So you can recycle all those pretty cheap. I know we don't want to do that. We don't want to handle it, but it was just a concern we had weeks ago.
Sure.
Okay, well, everyone's had a chance to discuss this. Is there any other comment that needs to be made? If not, do I have a motion of some sort? Could be any sort.
May I
Just
sit down?
give me, yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Beek, for your patience with us. We appreciate your,
This is far and away the best meeting I go to, so.
well, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone would like to make a motion? It's not required. If there's no motion, we will move on to the next item of business. Going once?
I have one more
Going
question.
twice? Okay,
Oh.
go
I have
ahead.
one more question. If the cost of the electricity per bulb is $8.50, whatever you said there, so then if we keep paying that, then the usage, the cost of the usage is going to go down for the LEDs to $4.50 or something like that, 4.25. I need to recalculate.
Yeah, hang on one
I
second.
need to recalculate that.
What are we currently at? 8.5?
Yeah.
8.5 on the, 8.5?
If it's a 175 watt mercury vapor, you're paying $8.05.
Okay.
If it is a 100 watt high pressure sodium, you're paying $5.40. And those two lights, those two heads make up the bulk of the
And that's
streetlights.
the two most common in our city.
That you have. Those-
Okay.
That wattage, 100 watt, 175 watt.
$800 a year.
16,000.
Times 15 years, that's still $250,000.
Do you know what the percentage is between the two? Between the 805 and the 5?
Off the top of my head, no, sir, I haven't looked at your account.
Well, that ruined everything. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, I had to add a little humor and everybody was getting too tense.
881 usage.
Okay.
Per year.
Dang it.
What did he say?
That would have been pretty awesome,
They
though.
had 340
What was that?
Okay.
on the older to new.
Do you,
Current is
yes, Bill?
Pat, just real quick, John mentioned there was 11,000 lights in this program, $4 million cost. That puts each light down to $363 a piece for installation and the product, so I just wanted to add that. Our 332 lights would be a value of $120,727 for them to put in. I don't know what the recycling cost would be. It might be as cheap.
And that was a question that I went to regulatory, I went to our storerooms that handle the processing, and nobody honestly would give me a cost to recycle the bulbs and recycle the ballasts, because those are two separate, they go to two separate facilities. So I do apologize that I didn't get you a number on that question.
Well, to us, those are red flags. And the unknown is what's scary in this situation.
Anyone wanting to make a motion or not?
One more comment here. So
I'm gonna
at
let the new boys make that decision.
$16,000 per
I'm
year,
tired
even
of
if it was
making
15 years, it's $240,000 is all it would cost us for 15 years.
Oh, I already knew what I was gonna do.
I know you did.
Okay.
Or, Pat, can I add some more? We budget $50,000 for our street light electric bill. And at the numbers John mentioned, we should be about 35,000 a year in costs. So at $332, taking the most costly item, most costly bulb to figure that out, so.
Anyone want to make a motion? If not, we can move on. Or you're free to make a motion to postpone if you still need more time to think about it. How often, because this is a program you're going to be,
This is a two-year program.
This is what I'm getting.
And
That's the
you are welcome to
cost.
call me at any time and say,
For
come back, we
the
have more
old.
questions, or
And that's the
we've
cost
signed
for the
the
new.
agreement, or no, we've made the decision that we really don't want. to
That's monthly.
participate. And that's fine.
He said
It really
15.
truly is fine if you don't participate.
So
We
that's our bill.
moved from Benton
we're
Township,
saving.
Benton Harbor, Lincoln Charter Township, we're in
We don't know what the
Buffalo
mix is
now.
between this
We're
and
going
this.
to City of Bridgman, Lincoln Charter Township, and Lake Township, and then we're probably going to move east towards Three Rivers, Constantine, White Pigeon, and But this is out here for 2 years, so you don't have to make a decision. You know, nobody, again, I'm not here to force it, just get your questions answered to your satisfaction as best as we can, and make your decision on that. It's not there's not a high pressure to it.
Commissioner Attorney?
How many communities in this area have already gone with AEP on this?
Have had to change?
Yeah.
A dozen. And that's primarily because I'm one person pushing out 100 contracts. And the city of St. Joe is the only one has not signed a contract yet. It's had one presented, and I believe their concern is aesthetic. They would like to, aesthetic, they would like to see a little more stylish light. Again, unfortunately, it's not an offering that we have.
I believe you said Cassopolis has already have taken this offer up. Cassopolis?
Cassopolis.
Cassopolis.
Agreed to sign, they've not signed. I live in Cassopolis, and I'm part of the village.
Oh, yeah, I'm aware over there,
So-
yeah.
So, yeah, they have not signed their contract, but they said just bring it and we'll sign it. Well, once they read it and run it through the council.
How many
And
light?
honestly, I anticipate the same questions from the Cassopolis Village Council as I'm getting here. And again, it's your all's job to do that, honestly, so.
Would it be possible to get a list of what we're paying for usage? Just to do all this math again. I'm kind of where Cameron was. The from $15 down to $8 is a big deal.
So
when-
if you look at your street light bill, okay, on your street light bill, it's going to say approximate kilowatt hours for the month. And that is an aggregate of all of the lights, the 332 lights that you have. In January, those lights are on for 14 hours a night. In June, they're on for 7 or 8 hours a night. It averages out, and you pay an average kilowatt hour cost on those lights. So if you have your street light bills, it will say average kilowatt hour, and that's for all 300 lights. It's not broken down by light.
Could we start to see the cost savings in that? Is that, with the LEDs in place, is the potential for us to see the cost savings in that approximation drop because of the LEDs and being more efficient?
I am told that you will see a slight savings on your cost per kilowatt hour, but we're not passing the entire cost down, no. And probably not enough to really satisfy the concerns of the council in terms of what the number is going to be. I'll get a firm number on that and email that back to you.
Well, anything else?
Is there?
I'd like to make a motion to table it until the next meeting.
If you weren't, I was going to. I will second.
Okay,
We have
we
2
have a
years to decide,
motion,
Dale.
Yeah.
and there's a second. So, could we have roll call on the motion to table?
Downey,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Turney,
Yes.
Whedon,
Yes.
Dennison.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, our next item, consider approval of road maintenance list with the Barron County Road Department for West Smith Street, Chippewa Street, and Arctic Street in the amount of $32,365 as discussed at the June 10th Commission meeting. Bill?
Your Honor and Commissioners, this has come back. We have updated information. You requested to understand the cost of putting a fog seal on the chip and seal, which locks all that stone in, creates a more aesthetic-looking street repair, in that it is going to be black. And that fog seal is done sometime just after the chip and seal has occurred. What they recommend is that the chip and seal happens, we get in and we remove the excess stone that hasn't been stuck down. And then they come in and they spray this polymer over the top of it. It sets, takes about an hour or so drying time. It sets up, and it creates that, that sealed look to the street. That, we believe that we'll be in the $700 to $7,500 cost, but again, that's an estimation. The vendor will have to come out of Ashley, Indiana, I believe, which is an hour and a half drive possibly. Their rate is $300 an hour and that's the only piece of equipment around that is doing this. Again, according to them as well as the county. That's who the county uses, BitMat. What I'm asking the City Commission to do is approve the streets that were selected because they were next on the consideration based on their rating, to have something done to them to increase the usage of the life expectancy of that road. Chip and seal, not popular, but it does allow us to get farther down with all of our roads. The 26 miles of roads that we have in the community allows us to get something done. I think the addition of the fog application will, I think, be very pleasing to the public and the residents. You know, that road, let's see, Glenlord up in Stevensville, Lake Lincoln Township, that is a fogged street, and it does seem to wear pretty well. It's very aesthetically pleasing in that it's dark, it's black, it looks like asphalt, but it wears a lot better. And I'm asking the commission to approve not to exceed amount of $8,500. I think we'll be down to $7,500, but I would like a little sludge factor there for if they get delayed or they're late getting out of here, what the cost will turn out to be.
Bill, could you, because people were asking about that, could you talk a minute about how the roads are rated and how the list is developed and who is at the Bering County Road Department and it's their list?
Yeah.
And how we got those streets on that list?
Okay, the roadways are rated on a TASER rating. There's a whole series of evaluations that are done on the roadway, percentages of deficiencies in the roadway, and then they get a rating from 1 to 5. The roads, and the theory is that once a road has actually failed, you really don't want to go in and spend a whole lot of money trying to repair it, Band-Aid it, you're wasting your money. Those roads get assigned to a total a grinding and a resurface. So the roads that are mid-range that have some life left, they're very eligible for chip and seals. That gains us years, especially in a residential setting. The commission was interested in a fog coating, which will go be sprayed over the top of the stones, and once it comes to a set, it'll be black, looks like a paved road. It locks in all of those loose stones and holds those stones in place for a much longer time period. The roads that were selected, again, we applied for a grant, MDOT grant last year. We were awarded that grant, but MDOT, and we had about $138,000 was what our cost would be, but we were able to do about $260,000 in road work with that grant. We were awarded the grant, but not until 2020. And if we can't touch the roads that we identified in the grant, because if we do, we got to start all over again. So those roadways, which included Shermer Parkway, which included 4th Street, for some significant repairs, as well as a number of local streets, which we're going to get chip and seal. Those roads really will happen after October of 2019. That's when the state's fiscal year starts. That's where we hope we'll be physically awarded the money to do those streets. I didn't want to let the whole summer go without having some significant maintenance on our roads. So we went to the next grouping of local streets to consider chip and seal. That's what was presented to you. $32,000 approximately for the chip and seal, and to try to get some of those roads done additionally. So we have the fog product that will apply this time, and I leave it with you.
Hopefully, there'll be fewer complaints, because we got even complaints on the loose stones being thrown up by the plow trucks, and the stone getting on the tree lawn, and all those issues, so I did feel
There was a
quite a
little
few
bit of a
complaints.
scheduling problem in that we didn't make the schedule last year for the county until late. So they came in, and we didn't get the chance to sweep those up before leaves started falling, and then winter set in a little bit quicker. Our plows then hit the streets. They plow all that stone off the road and into yards, which we know was a problem.
Okay. So we need actually two actions here. One, to approve the road maintenance list with that 32,000 amount. And then the other for this new thing we're going to try, the fog seal at 8,500. So are there any questions for the city manager about these two? If not, I would entertain a motion for one of those two items.
Do we need to make any additions to item B to include the fog seal?
Oh, we should just do two separate motions.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? We've never done the fog seal in town before.
No, we have not.
Yeah, so we don't
So this
know.
would be something new.
Commissioner Dunn.
We have some discussion.
Sure.
Okay. I'm not a big fan of chip and seal when it first goes down, but after a while, it looks good. It feels a lot better when you're driving over it, and it's a Band-Aid, but we've got a huge project coming up with the sewers and the water, and we're going to be forced to tear up a lot of things. We don't want to do any major work to any of the roads before they get torn up again. So at this point, we need to do what we can do to keep them going and stop the complaints from the citizens about the potholes and everything. So I found a study online, and it says that the chip and seal average life performance is between 6 and 8 years. The fog will add an additional 2 to 4 years to that. Timing, weather-wise, is going to be critical, because we don't want to waste another whatever we had happen last year. The sweeper, I mentioned to you before, I was worried about the capability of this older sweeper we have that is always breaking down, being able to handle a load like that. I think we might be able to consider, we have a Bobcat, maybe a brush that goes on the front of the Bobcat.
We have that available through the cemetery.
Okay, that might be something that we use and then manually pick them up by hand, or with a Bobcat bucket, I guess we could do that too.
Yep.
But I'm just worried about that old sweeper.
Okay, very good comments, thank you. Is there anything else, or are we ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion to consider approval of road maintenance list with the Berrien County Road Department for West Street, Chippewa Street, Arctic Street, in the amount of $32,365 as discussed on June 10th.
Okay, is there a second to the motion to approve the maintenance list?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second, very good. Let's have roll call, please, if there's no other
Dennison?
discussion.
Yes.
Whedon,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes,
Downey,
Yes.
Turney,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. All right, I'll entertain a motion about the fog seal project.
I will make a motion to approve the fog seal project and the amount not to exceed $8,500.
I'll second.
Oh, thank you. Commissioner Turney seconded that. Any other discussion? Then could we have a roll call, please?
Whedon,
Yes.
Turney,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Downey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Okay. Let's move on to our next item. Consider status of Ohm of Buchanan.
Mayor, Commissioners, we have Rick Paniagua with us tonight. He has a request for the commission, and again, if we may delve into some questions that would require a closed meeting. So,
Well, let's hear what you have to say, and then if there are things that are confidential, we could entertain a motion for a closed meeting.
Well, I've been making progress. There's been a lot of things happening in the past month. I communicated through an email, and I think that you're aware of the situation, perhaps the timing of how things happened or, became unwound. But we're putting them back together, and I think we're in a place where the permit can be approved.
Do you have a tentative date?
I signed a lease with a purchase to agreement, an option to purchase the property.
So, Bill?
is that a new lease?
Yes, I
Okay.
signed it today. My mother had a stroke. I just came back from Arizona last night to be here for this meeting. And I signed the lease today with the building owner. It's basically the same lease that we had before. And I'm now responsible for it. I have 100% control over the operating entity. I plan to move this project forward. And I'm negotiating with several parties right now.
Well, I'm sorry to hear about your mother. So,
She's okay, but
okay.
I would say.
Do we need
you
an
could-
extension for him?
You could
then?
give him an
I
extension.
have the lease with me, and,
Oh, okay.
And that was their
I would
final
like to,
item, correct?
yeah, I'm respectfully requesting that, the permit get issued, because it's causing some complications. And there should be no reason, I'm a qualified individual, my entity is qualified. I don't have all the capital to move this project forward, but I have several parties that are willing to move forward. I want to pick the right project, the
We,
right
we,
people.
again, he just signed this. We are not, we haven't received the lease yet, so you could give him an extension of X amount of time contingent on the submission of the lease. So,
So, to the
I think
next
that
meeting.
my application is as far along, if not further, than everybody else's, except the one that's open.
It should be,
So,
yeah.
this is-
So, yeah, so you'll need time to look at that document and everything? Okay. So would the next meeting be appropriate, is that within your time frame?
I think that I'm ready to move now. And, not having this permit reinstated or, permanently reissued is creating problems in my negotiations.
Well, doesn't the city have to see the lease?
Yes.
So pending
Exactly.
review of the documents, we
we'll
would
need some
need,
time to
right.
receive it, understand it, and
So basically, we're given an extension for the city to have time to review the documentation.
Correct.
And it gives you, I mean, regardless of the fact that we know you have everything in place and you're adamant about that, it gives you time to discuss with the city. And we're basically granting an extension based on their approval, and we approve their approval, so.
I'm not sure what, you know or what you're aware of, but, there was a lot of, things swirling around about what that building was going to sell for and so forth and so on. And
We've heard some of that.
Yeah, I think we understand your situation, but, we need time to process what your new information is that you're giving us. I'm trying to get an equitable date that we can extend your application for, and which I would make a suggestion that we consider that for the next meeting.
I would second that.
Okay.
It's not the best we can do, because we have to,
We
I
have
know
to
where
have
you're
time to
at, but
look at
the
it,
problem
so-
is we got to get all the
You need
ducks
a-
in the
And we,
pond.
you know, we
I'm-
don't want to set precedents for the future. I mean, we
That's
need
Yeah,
to.
my problem is my family comes first too, and,
Well, certainly, that's fine, but, so let's have there's a motion and a second, and let's give him the extension then to the next meeting. Let's have roll call on that.
Turney,
Yes.
Downey,
Yes.
Whedon,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes,
motion carries.
okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to new business. Consider approval of the MMFP for the Michigan Total Healing Center of Buchanan, 804 East Front Street.
Mayor and Commissioners, I wanted to let you know, we do have a representative of Michigan Total Healing Center of Buchanan. Tom Wright Sr. is here. He was initially the principal investor and has been the main principal, if you will, as we've moved along through the process. Michigan Total Healing Center, as some of our other medical marijuana LLCs, has had a bit of a restructuring. You did receive copies of that in your renewal application. It was very well explained. The property involved is 804 East Front. There will be some interior renovations to the building, I think, which will still need to be approved by the city staff, but everyone has approved, all of the staff except for Mike Adams, who's the fire chief, who is on vacation. But again, during the building review process, he will be involved, and he also approved the initial application. So Mr. Wright is here if you have any questions about this application.
I have a question for you. So we're waiting on how did we get a permit to begin with if we didn't have drawings? You said we're waiting on drawings?
We're not waiting on drawings. In the initial application, as part of that, one of the section was a proposed drawings of any renovations that needed to be done, and that's what we received. I'm making the comment because typically our permissions are good for a year. No building permit has been issued, but before that building permit will be issued, the building inspector will review it and, check with the fire chief and, make sure that all of the city codes are met.
Are there any questions?
Not this time, for me.
If there is any other discussion, otherwise I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to consider approval, or to approve the MMFP for Michigan Total Healing Center of Buchanan, 804 East Front Street.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay,
Can I make a comment before we go?
certainly.
This, one of the problems that I'm having, and I completely understand the financial part of waiting for the state to hand out licenses. I understand that's got to be difficult. One of my issues when it comes to approving some of these things are seeing the buildings that no one's doing anything with while we wait. When I drove by 804 today, the soffit was falling down. There's a pile of brick that's been in front of the building for I don't know how long. Those are things I'd rather not see personally. The great thing that's happened to Buchanan, and one of the bad things for the people who want to open other facilities, is that we have Red Bud Roots, who's set the bar very high and done things the way they should be done. So I would like to see some of these buildings start to take shape while we're waiting. I know that, that might be an impossibility, but to just let them decay while we wait, I have a problem with.
Thank you for that. Certainly.
To answer your question, we had a bit of a delay. Our information is with the state. We're waiting on them right now. We are picking up pace now because we fully expect in the next several months to open up. We did have a building permit to start, and then we sort of let it lapse because of the wait. So we are getting ready to get back in there. In fact, we got a bid today to get back and finish the renovation. We do have prints. You guys have the prints, and they have been approved. So we fully expect to get going here in the next month to, in fact, a couple of weeks to get this thing finished. So we're ready to open up when we get our license.
Good.
Are there any other questions? If not, there is a motion on the floor. With no objections, let's have roll call.
Moore,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Downey,
Yes.
Turney,
Yes.
Whedon.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deborah. All right, now we're at citizens' public comments. Citizens are allowed up to 3 minutes to discuss any non-agenda item.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Larry Thompson, 504 Rainierson Street in Buchanan here. I know that what I'm going to bring up tonight could go longer than 3 minutes. So I'd like to ask the commission if you would consider some of our antiquated ordinances and have a workshop open to the public where we can discuss them where you don't have a time limit. Because there are a lot of them I think are way out of dated and need to be looked at. I have one in particular. I sent out some stuff with your packets. I hope everybody got it so you would know what I am going to be discussing for a few minutes here. There is a driveway to my house, goes in behind another house. I'm the second one, so everything that snow plowing or what I have to do. And according to this ordinance, or this copy right here of the city is 60 years old. Times change, things change, people change. But they have the right, according to this, to use my approach, driveway approach, and go up that alley anytime they want to. It's now like a parking lot behind their house every day. When they back out, they're up in my driveway, up in my yard on the other side of the easement that is there. I worked on this drive with the city manager for 3 years now and gotten nowhere. One question I'd like to know is, if you know, I don't know, is the driveway approach belong to the homeowner?
Well,
The driveway approach is in the right-of-way of the city. The homeowner is responsible for putting it in. So it's on city property.
okay. That
Who does
answers your
it belong
question.
to?
Well, it belongs to be maintained by you.
That's right. And so they're technically, the way I feel about it, are using my driveway approach, which is my property, to go into their backside of their property. What I would like to see, if they want a driveway approach, they have plenty of room to make it themselves, instead of going up my driveway. This thing's been going on 3 years, the house caught fire. They have, if I may, this is what we looked at for 3 years. Out our kitchen window and front porch. And here is what they, with their dumpsters, they had 3 different times dumpsters. If you don't mind, I'll get them later.
Okay.
They had 3 dumpsters come in there to haul their trash out. They went across the driveway approach and tore it up every time. You can see it, it needs to be repaired. They've been in there for about a month now. They're still not repaired. and that's another thing, I don't know how long or how good a time do you have on a building permit? I think 3 years is a little excessive. Now, just some of the things I'm bringing up to you, that's why I say I'd like to have a work session where we could discuss some of these things. Weed ordinance, is there, and same way leaf, grass, there's a lot of things that I've looked up that concern me. And what I would like to see, there's a section in here that says they have the right for their lot to use my driveway approach. That would be very simple to eliminate this problem, is to take that out of there. It said Willie Brown said that was needed to get to the manhole that is behind my garage at 506. There's no way you could get through. There's about 3 feet between the back of my garage, his fence, and the manhole is in his backyard. The only common or sensible way would be come up his driveway and come into the backyard to fix it. Not up my driveway, that's not ever gonna work. So I have no idea why that's in there.
What's the
But I would
date?
like to see them rescind that lot. They cannot use my driveway approach to get to their backyard.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Thank you very much. And I would hope I can hear something back on this shortly. I appreciate it. And also on the work session, because I think it's something needs to be done. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Oh, Bill?
I can cover it in my
Okay.
commissioners, or
Okay.
manager's comments.
I'm Dan Bianski, I'm back, 103 North Detroit, Buchanan, Michigan. Since your self-appointed mayor doesn't help you with the rules, the consent calendar, anything that any one of you commissioners don't want on that consent calendar, you do not have to make a motion. You just say you want it off the consent calendar. That's it. It moves to the just below the consent calendar, then you discuss it and you vote on it. And if you want any clarification, that's not the person you ask. That's the person you ask. She's the law binder. She does the law. Any questions that you have, don't ask her, ask her. Okay? The rest of it. On the DDA, Sean, this has been going on for a long, long time. It finally come to a head. You know, the first budget that was done for the DDA was last year. Barbara went through it line by line. That gentleman come to a meeting twice and bullied everybody on the committee because we were making a $2,000 cut to the flowers that line the streets. We instituted, Barbara and the committee instituted a plaque so that we could raise the difference between the $2,000 that we were taking away from them and what it was cost. That man bought the flowers without asking the DDA. Everything that Barbara tried to do when it come to the DDA got stonewalled. Everything I've asked about the DDA while I was commissioner got stonewalled. I wanted to do away with the DDA when I first became a commissioner. She hates the DDA. This building was owned by the DDA until a really wonderful deal was done a few years back. And it's still not cleared up. It's still not cleaned up. It probably won't be cleaned up. So I wrote a little deal, you know, if somebody comes into your village, rapes, pillages you, burns the village down, are you supposed to be friendly with the village that burnt you down? The few survivors. You know, so yeah, I'm somewhat of an instigator in this, but the DDA had a massive amount of money. The city commission thought it was their piggy bank. They owned 11 properties at one time. They had a loan for $250,000. They gave all 11 of them properties to the city for that loan to be forgiven. This building, Clark's Park, and the Common, at that time was worth $305,000. There's 8 more properties that were owned by the DDA that the city got. Now, I would like to see the city, in the correct way, give this building back to the DDA, leave the DDA alone, and let the DDA become a real ambassador for the city, not a piggy bank for the city. There's not that much money that the city's going to get if they abolish the DDA. They do have problems keeping a DDA committee, but that's because the politicians want to run it. And they want to dip their stinking dirty fingers in the pot every chance they get for parking lots and all the other stuff. The DDA is supposed to be for the restoration of the downtown, like the loan that we gave you, or the loan we gave Joe. Not repave a parking lot, not redo sidewalks, not pay $8,500 a year for the use of the office that the city never paid one dime for and didn't do any maintenance the whole time they were in here when the DDA owned it. So I just wanted to fill you in on a little bit of reason why the history between the DDA and the city is what it is. Now, I believe it should be reconciled. I believe it should be fixed. But the people that you have in office at this moment is not going to allow it to happen. Thank you.
Anyone else want to make some comments? Oh,
Hi, I'm Fran Terry. I am presently serving on the DDA board, and I want to say that the opinions that was just said are not part of what the DDA believes. Yes, there might be a little issues between the DDA board not understanding the budget and not understanding why certain things were done. I served on the DDA back in 1999, 2000, 2002. We did terrific things for the city with the help of the city, and I think we can be there again. We just have such a changing of the guard, probably, I want to say, where committee people move away, new people come in, they're not brought up to date of what's happening and why it's happening. So I think the DDA and the city is going to learn to work together, and they're going to do great things again. So I just want to go on record saying that I think the DDA is going to be fine.
thank you.
Thank you.
Come forward.
Chris Geisler, 509 Cecil Street, coming in as a resident. Couple of complaints. Since I'm kind of in the transition of selling my house and everything, I've got more time on my hands. Watched the public works individuals mow a lawn the other day and just spray grass everywhere. No guard on the lawnmower whatsoever. This violates OSHA, big time. I don't know what supervisor allows that to happen or why it's not taken care of properly. Also, your tree truck, with it rolling down the street with its chipper going constantly, not going stop to stop, it's also a DOT violation. That needs to be happen quick, it needs to be stopped. Also, I don't know what can be done about Electric Voice. I know it's not city-owned, and I know it's privately owned, but that place is starting to look heinous. Just, you got people that come to the ballpark, look at things, and that's the first thing they see. It looks ridiculous. I don't know if we can step our enforcement with code. The guy that mows it does, as part of my French, half-ass. Our city workers do a better job. But with me selling my house, that was one of the questions that was brought up. What's going to be done about that building? And I think the city needs to put a little bit more pressure on Electric Voice. So, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wanting to come forward and speak? Okay, then let's go to the city manager comments, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Did Larry leave? Larry Thompson brought up the information. I wanted to add some clarity to that. Larry was asked to put his request in writing to the city on what he exactly wants. And he indicated to me in a verbal exchanges that he wants the city to give him a 7-foot easement on his property and his neighbor's property that we have a sewer main under, and he would like us to give that to him. And that's when I asked him to put it in writing, so we're all clear on what he was asking. Most of his complaints were code enforcement, and he has a present complaint and past complaints with code enforcement about his neighbor. It is a neighbor issue. They have a property line dispute. They have usage issues and so on. And code enforcement is handling that, as well as the police department. So there was recently a dumpster that was picked up at the Sisk home, and it did cause some lawn damage to Mr. Thompson's property. That's been reported to the police. That is being handled by the police department. So again, I asked Larry, I'll reaffirm with him that he will provide us with a written proposal or request of what he wants. But I'm not sure how we can give away an easement that we have a sewer main under. It's a 7-foot easement known as an alley, but we have a 6-inch water or a sewer main under that easement, and that's the same property that he has his driveway on, that he actually built a garage on. There are several issues to discuss and understand with that property. So hopefully he'll provide us with a written request of what he really wants us to do. So weather's been tough on the 4th Street project. We did get AEP in there. We do have electric now. Tomorrow they will be putting up the strand poles and putting up the traffic lights, trying to stay ahead of the finish date, which is projected at June 28th, the end of the week. So hopefully that'll come together. We do not want to interrupt the traffic for Redbud coming in next week. Again, I believe it's Wednesday, their gates will open. So hopefully they'll be done at least ahead of that traffic coming in. We are working with the Redbud Track and Trail to provide staging for all the units that'll be coming in. They'll be using the River Street parking lot to stage their units. Again, all the campers that are coming in, that get in here ahead of the opening gate, which I believe is at 6 o'clock on Wednesday. The gate will open. So they stage on our parking lot. We do provide a shuttle service for all of those people that are up there. We give them rides back into town, and then return them so they can hopefully have some commerce in town for our residents and business people. So again, as Fran suggested, the DDA, there'll be a lot of discussion moving forward with the DDA. I think there's some misinformation that is being run forward with, and it needs to be understood. I think once that happens, I'm hoping that some will put down their guard and we can sit down and move this thing forward. But there's going to have to be a desire to listen on both sides to see what people want and need, and go from there. So there is a special meeting of the DDA tomorrow, and we'll see where that takes us. So, and if anybody wants to determine what we're all responsible, Act 57 covers the statute of the DDA, what they're obligated to do to be a DDA, what our obligations are with that, within that act. So it's good reading. It's long reading, but if you want to understand who should be doing what, it's a good statute to read and understand. So, yeah, that's all I've got.
Thank you. Let's have Commissioner Dennison. Do you want to start tonight?
I just have a brief comment about the DDA situation. I probably don't know the history as well as everyone else, but I think the DDA, you know, it exists to promote and preserve our downtown. I think the city has the same goals, and I think that if all of us can act with the class that Fran chose, then we'll figure it out. But I think until we stop making accusations and sending inappropriate emails, I'm not sure it's going to get anywhere.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Okay, I just wanted to say that so happy that the weather's finally cleared up and the farmer's market has been very successful. Looks like lately a lot of people down there. And it's nice to see the mill up and running. Everybody's had a chance to go in and watch how this thing actually works, and just imagine, 150 years ago, actually working in there. It'd be pretty incredible. Attended the citywide garage sales. It was a lot of fun. There were a lot of people out, in the good weather just having a great time. I was curious about the look of McCoy Creek at the Commons. I don't know what the goal is there because it's such a beautiful little stretch right there, and there are 3-foot weeds growing around it. Right, well, it's grass, but it's just a nice piece of real estate for the city to look at. And I've got some current concerns with the go-kart, I'm going to call it, that the city guys ride around on. Okay. They're young guys. They're out there working, and they're zipping around town on that thing, and I'm a little concerned that they're not wearing helmets.
Is that the Gator, the green Gator? Is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about? Okay.
whatever it is. Okay, and now, my comments this evening put me in a very difficult position as a commissioner, a citizen, and business owner. I often send city officials messages and photographs of things that I see in Buchanan that may need attention, such as potholes, sinkholes, trees that need trimmed, and even workers sometimes. I also pass along concerns from other residents. I'm not looking to get anyone in hot water and but to give them a heads up on a situation and help them out with with the things that they may not see that everybody else does see. I would often see workers downtown as they drive by and was usually well received. However, lately I noticed a difference, as well as a difference in one of the downtown business owners. I decided to stop into her business and say hello, and I asked her if there was anything that I needed to address. During our conversation, I found out that she had been approached by one of the city employees, either on the phone or a personal visit to her business, as a result of a photo or a video that had been passed along. When I asked about this, the city confirmed to me that I had sent the picture or video or something that all taxpayers were seeing and complaining about in one way or another, and that a department head was brought in to discuss the situation. It seems that individual felt the need to investigate the situation, and in the process, he confronted this business owner, and she felt very intimidated and harassed. At this point, he apparently didn't know where the picture came from, but when he found out it was from a commissioner, he decided to drop it. My concern is, if this wouldn't have been a commissioner, how far would this harassment have gone? I wonder why would we allow this harassment to happen in the first place? In what world would this Gestapo-like action be permitted? Names should never be exposed or investigated. That practice only leads to issues between citizens and city employees. The people of Buchanan deserve better than this. Thank you.
Do you have any other comments? No. Okay. Commissioner Turney?
Thank you, Your Honor. In regards to a few comments from a previous commissioner who's no longer on this board, I had received a call from Beth Chubb because I was on the farmer's market a couple of years ago. She was ready to quit over what they were doing with their budget. So I says, Beth, don't do that. Let me go with you over there, and also my wife, who was part of the garden club, I was part of the garden club, there was the issue with the flowers. I had come in, spoke to Bill, and he says, I see the DDA budget. Can we get Julie in here and see if we can't work something out to help them get through the next budget year? So we offered them a balanced budget, but they decided to turn it down. When you go to those other meetings, the intimidation was coming from the previous gentleman that was not here. Now, I actually asked the mayor at the time, and also Bill, if I could go speak with Barbara, because she looked frustrated. She was the chairperson. And she basically said she felt intimidated. So that's the reason why I went there, to give them some support. And also to give them a balanced budget and explain to them that you shouldn't take X dollars from here to put it over there, because you're cutting other places, and you're almost losing the farmer's market person who's been in charge for many years. Fortunately, they decided to change that under the extreme protest of some individual. So we'll just kind of leave it there at that. So I just wanted to explain to you how I got involved and save the person who has been in charge of our farmers market for a long time. And they explained to them that they have to come up with some other ideas to get money for the flowers for the downtown people. Chuck, who takes care of those flowers, because that's where they buy them from, he's got to know in December so that he can put the order in for May. And the monies weren't there. So in the meantime, what are you going to do? I spoke to the garden club, and the garden club says, no, let them handle it. But my wife wanted to come there as support for the garden club. So enough to say of that. I just wanted to explain the situation, how that went. As far as the committees or boards that I'm on, the Planning Commission did not meet this last month. As far as the landfill is concerned, I can fill you in on a few things that we had done during our general meeting. So we approved about $32,000 to fix up the windows, sidings, doors, and the whole interior of the main building at the landfill. We also approved almost $22,000 for a new John Deere, because the other one was quite old and they need that for the servicing of the landfill. Also, they're going to put a whole new gate over at Chamberlain Road. I think most people know the entrance over there in Chamberlain. So that's going to cost about $17,000. Hopefully, the contract will be in our next meeting. We also terminated the partnership with Three Rivers, Coldwater, Sturridge, and Marshalls. There's it's called the Beast Wood Chipper, but we don't use it that much, and we have to pay, I'm trying to remember exactly, it's about $4,000 to be part of that. So we just said, do we use it? And we don't. So we just decided to get rid of that. Also, we approved all the new raises and dollar amounts for the for July 2019 for the employees. Also, John Burke, who actually worked for the city here and saved us quite a bit of money, he's still working for the landfill. I had told him about John Burke, and they decided to hire him. And he saved them almost about $6,000, not as much as the city, but he went, you probably know who he is, right?
I did the adjustments on the accounts.
Very good, sir. One other thing, I just want to, I know it's a plug, Your Honor, but it's Denny's Automotive saved me this last week because, believe it or not, both my vehicles went down when there was an important date for my wife to go to, and I didn't have a jumper cable, and he came out and took care of me. So I just wanted to say thank you, Denny, for Denny's Automobile, and he's right here in Buchanan. And that's all I got, Your Honor.
Thank you. Commissioner Whedon?
Good.
That's it? Wow, okay. All right, that leaves me, I guess. I wanted to remind people that, believe it or not, this is the summer season, and besides the great farmers market that we have, there are free concerts every Thursday night, starting at 7 o'clock, and they usually run about an hour and a half. We have a drawing for usually a gift certificate. And I believe this Thursday night, it's the Chippewa Project, which is a local band that's very popular. So I would encourage everyone to attend. And then I believe this Saturday is the last Saturday concert series starting this summer. So that's always an excitement that they bring it. I believe it's a nationally known banjo player, if I heard correct. So, so that should be an exciting thing to have happen. And the next week will be the 4th of July, so I hope everyone has a safe and productive 4th of July. I normally don't want to make comments about some of the accusations that have been thrown up about committee assignments, but I just do want people to understand, when the gentleman was referring to that he was willing to sit on committee assignments that normally go to commissioners that are elected, he was actually expecting these commissioners to abdicate their ability to sit on those committees, which is what they got elected to do, and he was wanting to continue to sit in their place. So he lost the election. You know, that's what elections are about. Not everyone can win. These gentlemen won the election, and they are serving as directed and as they were willing to do when it came to committee assignments. We all pick different groups that we, like the landfill and all these we represent, and he lost the election, so he is not really now representing anybody. So that is what his complaint is, that we did not allow him to sit on, say, the DDA board instead of Cameron. So we have nothing to do about that. This is how things have operated. This is how things operated when he was a commissioner. So, you know, did you have one more?
I did want to, could I say something? Your
Okay,
Honor?
just don't cuss.
No, I don't do that. The one major thing, and that was asked when these gentlemen were running, and John, you remember that, was that in the beginning, when he was elected, he refused to get on any committees.
Correct.
He did not, he says, my job is this, nothing else. And that was asked when there was a big meeting, okay, you know, to meet all the people who were running. And that question came up, am I right, gentlemen?
It did.
That question came up. Are you going to take the boards?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I got to add.
So that's where we're at. Thank you very much for your patience with us this evening, and your input, your comments are valuable to us. We hope you have a safe summer, and we will,
Is it okay?
also, we will entertain a motion to go into closed session, so to review minutes.
Your Honor, I'll make that motion that we can go into closed session to review minutes.
Any support?
Second.
Okay. Cameron
Second,
Downing,
Cameron, thank you.
Commissioner.